Who was Roland Garros? And why does this Grand Slam bear his name? Eugene Adrien Roland Georges Garros, Saint Tennis October 6, 1888, Battle of the Ardennes, October 5, 1918, was a French aviation pioneer and fighter pilot during World War I. He was born in Saint-Denis, Réunion Island, and studied at Élysée Jean Saint-Denis, IHC, School of Higher Studies in Commerce in Paris. At the age of 12 he contracted pneumonia and was sent to Cannes to recover. He took up cycling to regain his health and won an interscholastic championship. He also became interested in soccer, rugby union, and tennis. During his summer vacation in 1909 in Zappacourt, near Reims, he stayed with a friend's uncle and attended the Grande Semaine d'Aviation de la Champagne, which ran from 22 to 29 August. Fascinated, he knew he wanted to dedicate himself to it. He began his aviation career in late 1909, flying a Dendoassel Dragonfly monoplane, an aircraft that only flew well with a low-weight pilot. He obtained the ICF license, number 147 in July 1910. In 1911 he graduated to flying Blériot monoplanes and participated in several European air races with this type of aircraft, including the Paris to Madrid air race and the Paris-London-Paris Circuit d'Europe, in which he finished second. He was a French pilot, a pioneer of aviation in the 20th century, whose end during the First World War was a severe blow to all of France. The Roland Garros tournament has become one of the most recognized Grand Slams in the world of tennis. Held annually in France, this competition has been played since its inauguration in 1891, when it was still baptized as the French Championship. Now, more than a century after its first edition, the tournament is known under the name of Roland Garros. Although its name is associated with the world of tennis, the truth is that the history of this Frenchman has little to do with the mythical racket sport. But who really is Roland Garros, and why does the top tennis competition in France use his name? This is all you need to know about this character. Despite his fame in the world of tennis, this young Frenchman, born in Saint-Denis in 1888, did not stand out in sport, but did so at a military level, being one of the great pioneers in the history of aviation in the 20th century. Garros was one of the great promoters of the development of piloted flights, as we know them today. Thus, thanks to his research and creations, this pilot managed to become a true patriotic symbol for the French, who considered him a real source of pride. Even before achieving recognition, Roland Garros managed to reach an altitude figure in flight, unprecedented in 1911, 3,910 meters, which he would end up surpassing just 1 year later, in 1912, 4,350 meters, the first pilot to cross the Mediterranean. This was not the only record that the French aviator managed to break. In fact, he managed to travel from the French town of Saint-Raphael to the Tunisian town of Bizerta, a milestone in air transport to date, as he managed to cross the Mediterranean Sea by air. Garros managed to reach this distance, 756 kilometers, in less than 8 hours non-stop, landing with just 5 liters of fuel in the tank. He also did it with a unique airplane to date, made of walnut wood, with 9-meter wings and a single engine. The Frenchman was not, however, the first pilot to try to achieve this feat. Years ago, the pilot Edward Baguette tried to meet the challenge of crossing the Mediterranean, but ended up crashing and his body was never found. His tragic death in the First World War. With the start of the First World War, Roland Garros became a benchmark for the French army thanks to his great driving skills. In fact, he came to devise a system to shoot down enemy fighters, which was completely revolutionary. On April 19, 1915, after being shot down in the German lines, he was imprisoned in a prison camp, from which he managed to escape 3 years later, thanks to a disguise of the enemy uniform, and reintroduced himself to the ranks. However, shortly after, in 1918, when he was barely 29 years old, the aviator was shot down by German soldiers in the Ardennes while on duty. Why is the tennis tournament called Roland Garros? It was not until a decade after his death, when the figure of the French pilot and his exploits began to be recognized by the population of his country, thanks to tennis. It was thanks to the rise of this sport in France, essentially caused by the celebration of the Ibis Cup final in 1928, which pitted the French team against the United States. As a result of this, the Parisian government decided to build large sports facilities that would allow hosting these major events. It was Émile Lessière, president of the Francais state rugby team and a longtime friend and admirer of Roland Garros, who proposed that the project for this stadium be named after the iconic French aviator. A proposal that was finally accepted by the Frenchman and that brought the pilot to international fame, thanks to the tennis tournament. The construction of these sports facilities that bear his name made him a benchmark for tennis. In fact, just a few years later, the so-called French Championship gave way to the Roland Garros tournament, which became a Grand Slam in 1948.
1948. Amigos, muchas gracias por ver mis videos, espero te haya gustado, te invito a que te suscribas a mi canal, compartas con tus amigos en redes sociales.
I would appreciate it if you give the like button, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos.